The legacy of the 124 Infantry Regiment. First, introduction and background. KUSAMUSHINU presents the prefaces and reflections from the history of the 124th Infantry Regiment, published in 1986. The regiment primarily composed of the men from Fukuoka, fought through some of the most brutal theaters of the Second Sino-Japanese War and the Pacific War. These records were compiled 40 years after the war to ensure that the memories of the fallen do not fade away like the mist over the Irrawaddy River. Second, the living hell of Guadalcanal. The veterans described the Battle of Guadalcanal as a living hell. After landing in August 1942, supply lines were severed, leading to extreme starvation and disease. Soldiers suffered from the malaria and amoebic dysentery in the dark jungle. The situation reached such a horrific extreme that men had to eat snakes, frogs, and in some cases even human flesh just to survive. It was a state of spiritual vacuum where humans were pushed to their absolute limits. Third, the Impel Campaign and the White-Bone Road. Following the withdrawal from Guadalcanal, the regiment participated in the Impel Campaign as the core of the 31st Division. They crossed the treacherous Arakan Mountain to the capture Kohima in India. However, due to the total lack of supplies and arrival of the monsoon season, they were forced into a disastrous retreat. The path became known as the White-Bone Road, Hakutsukaido, due to the countless soldiers who died of starvation and disease along the way. Fourth, the purpose of the regimental history. The survivors compiled this history with several key goals. 1. Requiem for the fallen. To honor and pacify the souls of the comrades who remain buried in the mountain and fields of Guadalcanal, India and Burma. 2. A pledge for peace. This is not a memorial for those who love war. It is a record to teach future generations about the misery of conflict so that such tragedy are never repeated. 3. Human bonds. Even in the depths of hell, it was an individual power of bonds between fellow soldiers that gave them the strength to survive. Fifth, message of modern Japan. The veterans look at a modern, prosperous Japan with mixed emotions. They believe that Japan's post-war economic recovery was driven by the resilient spirit and tireless efforts for the Meiji and the Taisho generations who survived the war. However, they warn against the spiritual poverty and egoism of the modern era. They urge the younger generations to remember the true image of the Japanese people who loved their country and sacrificed everything for the sake of their descendants.